So we're talking about diminished chords and half diminished chords, and also D-shaped chords. So let's just start by playing a major 7th chord. So on the D string, play what feels like or looks like a bar chord, like an A-shaped bar chord. But on a D string, that's a major 7th chord. All right. If you take this 3rd finger down a half step, you get a half diminished chord. Let's go and add a root to this on the A string, and we get a 9th chord, an E flat 9. So what's the 3rd of an E flat? What letter?
G.
That's right. So if you let go of the E flat, you get a G half diminished. So a half diminished chord is in effect a dominant 9 chord without the root. Okay. That's how you play a half diminished chord on the D string. But how would you play the same chord on the A string? I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a new chord. Let's go to E half diminished. Okay, play a E half diminished on the A string. So find the E on the A string, which is 7th fret, and then play the same shape as a fully diminished 7th chord on the D string. One way to kind of get that's okay. If your fingers get jumbled up, one thing to do is, here's a D chord, right? Yeah. Okay. On the A string, play a D shape. So there you go, and then just add the pinky, and you'll get your grip. That's how you'll feel it. Okay, so that's a half diminished chord on the A string, and that's a half diminished chord on the E string, and they're voiced identically. So play the E on the D string. Play it on the A string. Notice how it sounds identical. It's because it is. It's the exact same notes in the exact same order, in the exact same pitch. Okay, so that's half diminished chords. Let's talk about where they're found. Okay, they're found in the major scale and they're found in the minor scale. Where are they found in the major scale?
The 7th chord in the major scale and 2nd chord in the minor scale.
Right. Now, here's a couple ways to kind of like think about them. If you're going to think about them in the major scale, you can kind of think about them as the dominant 9 without the root, because that's the way they function. We don't really need to explain that because it's not that important, but you more often find half diminished chords as 2 chords in minor. When you see a half diminished chord in music, more often than not, you're in minor.
Okay.
So it's 2 in minor, right?
Yeah.
So there's this little guitar trick for finding the 2 chord and finding the half diminished chord. Let's say we're in A minor.
Okay.
So here's an A on the E string. If you stack a 5th, and then stack a 5th again. So you have this A at 9, that's what this chord is. It's an A5 at 9, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so this second note right here, this is a B. This is where you would put your half diminished chord. And in minor, it would do something like a cadence. You'd have... I played a sharp 9 and then I played a flat 9. That's all. Usually the 9th chord in minor in these instances is going to be altered. So you wouldn't play an E9. You'd play an E7 sharp 9. Hendrix chord or Blaze. Okay, or a flat 9. Like in the Pink Floyd song. So that's a really good instance. You find 2 5-1s like that. B half diminished. E7 flat 9. A minor 7. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on. Is that explained half diminished pretty well? Okay. Let's talk about fully diminished chords.
Okay.
Well, the first thing to probably maybe think about is if you take the shape that we were using for half diminished on the A string, so this E half diminished. If you take this same shape and move it across to the D string, let's bring it down to E since we're playing the E chord. You'll get an E fully diminished. Okay. And this is also invertible by moving it up minor thirds. You're getting the same chord just inverted. Okay. So if this is spelled E, G, let me spell it as it is. So it's E, G, B flat, D. When you bring it up, you're going to have G. Everything's going to rotate to the next letter. Okay. Oops. I played the wrong. Any questions about the fully diminished chord? Do you know where do you find a fully diminished chord?
Fully diminished chord.
What scale provides it?
Mixolydian?
No, good guess in a way. I'll give you a hint. It's not one of the modes of the major scale. It's one of the altered minor scales.
Harmonic.
Harmonic minor. It's the 7th chord in harmonic minor.
Alright.
Yeah.
7th chord.
That's where you find a fully diminished chord. Let's see if we can build that. So I'm playing the A fully diminished scale. I mean the A. Playing the A harmonic minor scale. So we have, if we play an A minor scale, we know that we have all naturals. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, right? So the chord that we're going to need is going to be G sharp, B, D, F. So G sharp, B, there's F, there's a D, there it is. So there's, in this scale, the other thing to say about fully diminished chords is that they can respell themselves. So let's do the example where we're in E and we're playing E fully diminished 7th. If we go to the low E string and unfold it as a single string, so we have E, G, B flat, D flat. Well, the B flat and the D flat could also be A sharp or C sharp.
Okay.
So we could spell this as an A sharp fully diminished chord, and we'd get a new set of letters.
Okay.
And that belongs in a different key, right? A sharp chords and E chords belong in totally different keys. And it's a great way to modulate.
Yeah. Okay.
So the way I like to think of fully diminished 7th chords is they're sort of like a hub to modulate off into other keys. Okay, let's talk about major 7th chords real quick. All right, this is pretty fun. Okay, so we talked about on the D string, they're just like power chords, real easy to play. But when you go to the A string, they require a little more dexterity. So here's where it comes from. You're playing dominant. Yeah, okay. So So play an open A. Take the A on the G string down to G sharp, and you get. There you go. I forgot about this. It's like blowing all over the microphone. Okay, so yeah, that's a major seventh. So all you have to do is kind of graft this onto the root, and you have. But here's two little cheat ways of playing this if this feels a little uncomfortable. One, if you have a bass player playing, you can just leave the D out and just play the upper part of the chord. And in fact, so I'm playing what looks like a D7, but on these strings. And here's a cool little thing. If you take the third finger and just kind of bar over, almost like you're playing a ninth chord, like the grip is like a ninth chord, you get a major 13. This is a D major 13. So play that for a second. Go to a C major 13. D. C. Okay. That's a great sounding chord. You should write a song with that sometime. It's very kind of a mellow sound. Okay. One other. If you're gonna try to play it like this, leave out the pinky, and you get lucky, and you get a D major 9, or just a major 9. Real easy to play. Yeah. And it's easy to play this because we're used to playing the minor 7. If you just take this finger down in pitch or up in movement, you get a major 9. And keep in mind that a major 9 and a major 13, they're really just major 7th chords, and you're adding the 9. You could almost call them major 7 add 9.
Okay.
But you don't. You just call them a major 9.
Okay.
So, and this is the last thing, I want to clear this up. So, when you name 7th chords, above the 7. So let's start with major 7th chords. How would you name a chord? We don't need the letter, we just need the name of the chord. So C, blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So let's say we have a major 7th with a 9th. What is it called?
Major 9.
Right, major 9. What if you have a 13?
Major 13.
What if you have a 13 and a 9?
Still major 13?
It's still just major 13, yeah, because it's taken for granted that you're probably going to put the 9 in there.
Okay.
Okay, very good. What if it's a dominant chord, like a C7? So now, if we add a 9 in there, what's the chord called?
Dominant 9.
Dominant 9 or just 9?
Okay, just 9.
Yeah. What if you have a 13?
Just 13?
Yeah.
Dominant 13? Right?
Yes, it'd be 13th or a dominant 13th.
Okay.
What if you have a 13th and a 9?
Same as just dominant 13.
Yeah, so you could it'd be called like C13.
Okay.
All right. What if it's a minor chord?
Minor chord.
So let's have minor 7 and then you have a 9 in there.
So minor 9.
Minor 9, yeah. And then 13, same thing, minor 13. Okay, so the trick comes when you put the 11 in there. If you have an 11 in a minor chord, it's just going to be called C minor 11. Okay. If you have same with the dominant chord, you're going to have it like a C11. However, often with 11th chords for dominants and majors, you sharp them. So you have sharp 11s. So we'll just go over this real quick. So here's a C9. Sorry, don't worry, I'll edit that. play a D9. Okay, play a D7 sharp 9.
D7 sharp 9.
D7 flat 9. And real quick, I want to make the point is when we alter the 9, notice how we call it a D7 sharp 9.
Yeah.
Or D7 flat 9, but it's not D7 natural 9, it's just D9. Okay. Okay. And if you have a D7 sharp 5,
D7 sharp 5.
some people will call this a D7 flat 13. Okay. All right, well, here's a D7 sharp 11.
D7 sharp.
It's like playing a D7 flat 9. We just borrow one more string. Good. Okay, so that's a pretty good overview of half diminished chords, fully diminished seventh chords, and major seventh chords, and then